on social media, people separate the muscle and the tendon, and they're like, this is tendon, this is fascia, this is muscle. And I'm like, how about we think about them all together? They all work together. If you have a sloppy muscle, your tendon's not going to work. Yeah. I'm sorry. And so like Kobe, people rack their brain going, why did he tear his Achilles? Kevin Durant, why did he tear his Achilles? Well, one, they were a little bit older, but two, you look at the injury history. Kobe just sprained his ankle and he was playing through it.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, he just sprained his ankle and they were trying to make the playoffs, so he's still playing high minutes. Boom, Achilles goes. Kevin Durant had a calf strain and he was playing through that calf strain. Boom, Achilles goes. Like there's so many times where you can just go, you can even just look it up on ESPN, like what games did they miss leading up to that? And it's always like ankle, calf. It's always something, and then it happens, and everybody's on social media like, yeah, look at the biomechanics. You got to avoid this position. It's like, no, avoid the calf strain or rehab the calf and then get back into basketball.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the biomechanic crowd. And then it's also they're being like, let's do prehab to strengthen the Achilles to make it stiffer and stronger. And I'm like, I don't think that's why it ruptured, was because it wasn't strong and stiff enough. Because Kevin Durant, Kobe, whatever age they were, 30, 35, like it has been strong and stiff their entire life and never ruptured. So something else happened, and it's going to be, I think it's that the muscle issue, or I guess sometimes the arches of the feet can but I think it's all has to do with, I guess that term calibration. I can think of another one, that area is not well calibrated. And then when the thing ruptures, it's like something around the area was messed up beforehand and it just happened. But then you can I think it can be kind of dangerous too, because like Joe Burrow had a calf strain, I think in the first game, and people were commenting like, I don't know, that's kind of risky, and he hasn't tore his Achilles yet, has he? No. Yeah, but he's also younger, so you have other factors. But I'm like, dude, what do you do then if you have a calf strain? Do you say no sport for you until we get this calf strain back up to par? I don't know.
And people don't look at the risks of being too cautious and sitting people out. Like, okay, you have a little nick, like we got to go through this full rehab protocol for the next 8 weeks and you can't go play the sport. I don't care what rehab you do, you're going to be weak when you come back because you're not playing that sport. And so then you come back, it's like you're so detrained, you're at risk for other injuries. Yeah. And I think that's one thing that people do too often, especially with patella and Achilles, is they just shut everything down. And yes, sometimes it's really bad and we do need to take out elastic contacts early on. But if we just freak out every time we feel pain and we're like, I can't play basketball for the next 8 weeks, dude, you're going to be so detrained when you come back.
Even in rehab, when they're rehabbing their patellar tendon and they just do a quad program, or if they're rehabbing their Achilles and they just do a calf program, and it's like, you've only been training the calf or the quad. You've only been training that for now 2-3 months, and you've neglected everything else. Yeah. And so you have to assume that your hips are not like they used to be, your hamstrings are like they used to be. So it is about like locally try to strengthen the attached muscle, but everything else too. If you have a patellar tendon and you lose, I guess, let's say like the springiness of your Achilles or the force dissipation that can happen at your ankle. If you just don't train that, you only do leg extensions, or if you have an Achilles and you only do calf training and you don't do any quad or hamstring or hips, when you go back, like you can no longer offload the affected joint because the other tissues are not as strong. They're not as good. Yeah. So it's like you have a super huge, and that's one issue I had with like the Keith Barr. I love the Keith Barr research where you're doing the isos for the quad patellar tendon, but then he has those case studies where it's like he took an NBA guy, or he took a thrower, or I think a javelin thrower, and in the people's heads, it's like all they did was the heavy iso for like 1 or 2 months, and they completely healed their patellar tendon. And I'm like, I wouldn't recommend that because everything else gets detrained. Yeah. And then when you go back to play, you have a super strong quad and I guess a normal patellar tendon, but your hamstring and your hip and your calf and everything else is not taking the load like it used to. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's almost like you have to load the tendon, but then you have to find ways to offload the tendon. Yes. And that's where it's like strengthening everything, addressing everything around it.